You are moving 1,000 miles an hour as Earth rotates. You are moving 18 miles per second in orbit around the sun, and you don't feel any of that. Okay?
Okay.
You don't feel any of that. If it's trying to fling you off the Earth,
Okay.
but the force of gravity is resisting back, by what force is it trying to fling you off? That upward centrifugal force subtracts from the gravitational force that the Earth is trying to put on you. It subtracts.
Okay.
So, Chuck, what do you weigh here and now?
192 pounds. Yeah.
I'll give you the 190 pounds, okay?
Okay.
So if you do the math, you run to Ecuador, because we're in the Western Hemisphere, so let's stay there. You run to Ecuador, you will not be 190 pounds. You'll be like 185 pounds.
What?
That's how significant it is.
That's
If I did my math correct, and I think I did, there are pounds less that you weigh for living on the equator than for living anywhere else, simply because the spinning Earth is trying to fling you off.
nice.
Yes. Yes.
If the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour in a curved trajectory, we're dropping at a rate of miles per minute, but somehow none of that inertia affects these rocks here, which are perfectly balanced.
The fact is, the Earth is stationary, and that is scientific, not pseudoscience. In 1879, George Airy, astronomer royal for 49 years, who did a telescope experiment and proved that the Earth was stationary. Then we have
Parallax, also known as Rowbotham, who carried out an experiment in the late 1800s on the Bedford Levels experiment, where he went at a distance of 6 miles, which should have showed up some sort of curvature of around 16 foot. No curvature was seen at all.
Then we have Michelson, Morley and Sagnac in the early 1900s with their interferometers using light instead of telescopes this time. And with their interferometer experiments, they proved that the ether over the Earth, the field, is moving and the Earth is stationary. We also had Michelson Gale. They did an experiment in the 1930s and proved that the Earth is stationary.
One of the greatest science experiments of all time, in my opinion, is from Marconi. Marconi, in 1901, set up transmitters to send radio waves, like signals, wireless signals across the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, okay? So he has one set up in Europe and one set up in Canada, okay? And they're sending signals, I think the letter S was the first one, boom, and it worked. Almost 2,000 miles across the ocean, they got the signal. There's no curvature. You're talking about 600 miles of curvature between the 2 points. But it worked because all water's level. I don't even know if he was trying to talk about that at the time. It was just more about his technology that he was coming out with. And have you learned about that in school? No.
Then we have Pierluigi Ghina, a colleague of Marconi. And before he died, he showed people in his laboratory how the Earth is stationary. You can go to my channel, Mr. Astrotheology, and you can see videos of Mr. Pierluigi Ghina proving in his laboratory with strobe lights how you can prove quite easily that the Earth is stationary.
Every scientific experiment throughout time looking for axial rotation or curvature has proven the opposite. They don't teach this in schools. Any observation, when you go outside on a calm morning, you can see a perfectly glass lake. And your senses will tell you that, nothing is moving.
We, stationary Earthers, we have science, real science, on our side, and the Globies have pseudoscience. In fact, all they have is Einstein saying, "I have come to believe that no optical experiment can prove that the Earth is moving." And yet, the Earth is moving.
Science!
Yeah, Albert Einstein. I always recommend people go watch Albert Einstein in his interviews. interviews. He's reading cue cards. He's reading notes that someone handed him, kind of like people on TV nowadays.
There is no optical experiment ever been conducted that can prove that the Earth is moving.
The Earth is spinning at 1,040 miles an hour. You can't feel it. You can't measure it. You can't observe it. You can't repeat it. But trust us, there's not one experiment that shows the Earth is spinning or moving whatsoever. There is, however, an experiment that was proven in Behind the Curve.
Bob Nodell was talking about the ring laser gyro, showing that there is a apparent 15 degrees drift throughout most of the day.
Is when we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15 degree per hour drift.
And this was taken out of context. It was later, the experiment was done at a higher altitude and it showed a different rotation speed, which absolutely proves it's not the Earth that's moving, that it's the ether that is spinning above us.
Netflix is mainstream. Netflix is the alternative mainstream narrative. Netflix can't go against the grain. They'll lose their contract.
A documentary, like a mockumentary. I'm sure someone watched our movie and was like, whoever made this movie is a government shill, and they're just trying to hide it. Netflix is in on it, trying to hide it. Yeah, he accidentally proves that the Earth is round.
It was the biggest mic drop. It was the biggest mic drop. And I love that you kind of cut it.
The thing is, we have technology that is outrunning their lies. Now we have time lapse. Ooh, imagine that. We have time lapse where we can point at the sky and year after year, day after day, hour after hour, the sky's spinning.
Every day there should be different stars, random stars, in the sky if we are traveling at 650 million miles an hour, which is Mach 870,000. Do you really believe that every year we move through space at 5.5 trillion miles every year? And yet every year the same stars keep turning over our Earth. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, year after year after year, and yet none of those constellations distort, change shape, get brighter. There has never been, in recorded history, we have never seen any star get brighter or dimmer or any shape of those constellations which are still recognizable today as they were thousands of years ago. They never suffer any parallax or distortion.
Polaris has never moved in all of recorded history. Point your camera up at Polaris and do a time lapse and watch God's perfect timepiece spin above you.
And we move 5,694,000,000 miles through space every year. Congratulations to you if you believe that. It's called education, indoctrination, and dumbing down.